I'm not a doom and gloom merchant, but I'm not going to say, oh, get down here, it's fishing great. I call it straight. But I was with a client at the top of the ridge pool there about 3-4 weeks ago. High tide was about 7, so between 5 and half 6, I saw with my own eyes at least 250 fish going up by me. You know when you see running fish going up through the rapids, the little spurts, the little flickers, the tails. One ran through my legs, another bumped off my boots.
Hello and welcome to the Ireland on the Fly podcast about the people and places of fly fishing in Ireland. So, we're nearly at the end of July, and how has Ireland's most prolific salmon river been doing in what's been another difficult season? We wanted to find out if the Grilse run had given any positivity to anglers this summer, and so we decided to catch up with East Mayo angler Garrett Ruigrok to find out more. But Tom, before we hear from Garrett, look, we have to start with and mention the terrible fish kill at Ballysadare Fishery.
Yeah, hi Dara. Yeah, really bad news coming from the Ballysadare Fishery with a substantial fish kill there last week. I think a lot of us would have seen on social media, because there's videos circulating of dead salmon, floating up, and it's just horrible to see there. And we don't know, we're at a stage now, we don't know what has actually caused it. And at the moment, all angling has been stopped on the catchment of the whole river. So, and that has far-reaching consequences for anybody involved in angling up there. But it's just, as I said, we don't know for sure yet what happened. But all I can say is, anybody who's seen this or heard about it, I mean, it's kind of depressing there.
Well, especially in the time when we know salmon numbers are so precious, and seasons are difficult enough as they are, and then when you do see the videos that are doing the rounds on social media, of the kind of the dead fish, and it's just what really struck me was I saw the map of the area that had been closed, just the size of it, the stretch of it. Lakes, Loch Arrow, other lakes that are closed off to it. And there's guides, and the other thing to think about, there's guides affected here in terms of livelihood, not able to take clients out, having to try and regroup, do what they can. And it's just, when I saw that map, and then you kind of realise how many people are affected by it, not just the recreational anglers, but like we said, like the professional guides affected by it too.
Yeah, very much so. It just goes to show how far-reaching it is.
Yeah.
How far-reaching it is. But definitely what you said at the start there, I think salmon, as we said and we're discussing, we're at crisis point nearly at the moment, and then for this to happen on top of everything that we've been discussing over the last couple of shows we've done, and with the last salmon podcast as well, looking into all the problems, and then for something like this to happen, you just go, oh God, no.
Oh, don't. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
We're going to hear from Garrett Ruigrok, the prominent Moy angler, in a little while. And Garrett gives us a great summation of the season so far. He's very honest about it. Some great information as well in terms of the fish that are coming in. But before we get into that, in other news, Tom, tell us of your nearly most memorable fish on the fly this season.
Well, I was just saying it there before, and I've never been asked my most memorable fish, but I think after yesterday, early on this week, I think I definitely have a candidate. So I'm just back from the Orkneys, and that's another story. That was brilliant.
Didn't even get a chance to get to that.
Yeah. So straight back into the deep end, I was boating, and I had a couple of lads out, regular listeners to the podcast, Liam and Patrick Penny, Cork lads. So it was out first day, a lot of movement the first day, but they were tough, they weren't coming, and then there was a lot of fish. Yesterday then was one of those days you don't get too often here. It was flat cam for the whole day, just flat cam. We had maybe about 20 minutes of a breeze, just after lunch, and we actually picked up fish, right? And it was just one of the days, and it's, the lake is challenging enough at the best of times, but like when it's flat cam, going around a boat, they're wary, they're spooky, it's tough. But so anyway, in the flat cam. Liam is a river angler, and he has his own river rod with him. Lovely little rod, 9'9", 3-weight rod. So it's flat cam. I said to him about 4 o'clock. I said, "No, do you want to try your rod?" He said, "Sure, I will have a cast it." So we set it up and put on a single dry mayfly, a tapered leader. A few mayfly knocking around, quite a few actually. The second mayfly hatch is, I won't say in full swing, but it's happening, and there are mayfly around. So just around, we weren't moving very far, but then at about 5 o'clock, I think I was fishing out, and about 3 meters, 3 yards, 3 meters in front of his fly, there was a natural mayfly, and I was actually looking at it. And the next thing, this fish just head and tailed on it. Now, I won't repeat what I said when I saw him, but if there was bleeps in it, there would be a lot of bleeps. But I saw him see head and tail. I knew he was good. So we waited with the fly. We were about 30 seconds. Nothing happened. So just picked up the rod, cast further over to him, down close enough, but nothing happened. About 30 seconds, so nothing happened. Then maybe 15, 20 seconds after that, mayfly disappears, tightens, and all hell broke loose. And within a couple of seconds, he was looking down at the backing on the rod.
Oh my God.
Oh God, yeah. Oh, it was just, so I was getting on the oars. The backing was still going.
And just to remind people, this is a 3-weight rod.
Yes, yeah, for flat cam. And so luckily it stopped. We stopped. So got it back, and I was on the reel and everything, and got it back, and it just bored down. And it kept down. And the fly line, it was on about a tapered leader, so it was about 14, 16 foot leader. And all that we could see was the loop of the fly line. And just wore down. And thing was bent in double to it, put pressure on, but you didn't see it. So 20 minutes passed, and finally we reeled in a bit and got a bit, and up it came. About 3 feet below surface, maybe 4 feet, I got a glimpse of him.
And was it?
And then down again. So all that happened after that was between then and 6 o'clock, which was another 40 minutes, it would go on these sort of runs deep down in the water, okay? And would take maybe 6, 7, sometimes 10 meters of line. But you'd reel back, and I'd have to row the boat around, make sure the line was not going to hit the bow of the boat, because Liam was at the engine end. And then it's about 6 as another small run, and reeling in, and he's going, it's not reeling right. I said, well, I could hear it. You're right, it's not reeling right. I had a look, and it was one of these light framed reels, right? It was made for its lightness, okay? And between the spool and the cage, there was a gap, enough for a coil of line to come out into the cage and wrap around the spindle of the reel. So the line was jammed there.
Oh my God.
Oh God. Right?
So could you take the spool off, or?
Well, couldn't. I'll tell you why, because it doesn't have a quick release spool mechanism.
Oh, jeez.
All right. So what we did was we pulled all the line out till we got to the jam, which is about, I'd say, 6 or 7 meters, right? So I left that up, all draped over the seats, so it was clear. Couldn't get the spool off, so Liam took the reel off, right? And he played by hand, and I tried to get the mechanism off. I couldn't. Whether it was jammed or what, unknowing. So Patrick, his brother, not very outdone, went on IT duties. So we Googled how to release the spool of the reel, right? Still couldn't get it off. We're about 10 minutes trying to get it off. And at this stage, this was 10 past 6. I know, because just as I was at it, it started just slowly going.
No.
And then the line was going. I could see the coils of line that I'd laid out going back. And I ran back to the engine. I started the engine, jammed her into reverse, gave her as much reverse as I could, but she didn't go fast enough. And we saw the last coil of line going up up through the butt ring.
And you knew what was
And
going to
then-
happen.
Yeah, just jammed the reel and ping. And that was it.
Heartbreak.
And there was that moment of silence. Just that moment of silence.
I can feel it.
That was it.
Hold on.
Yeah.
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 What size, Tom?
Did get a look at the fish a few times, between 7 to 10 pounds. Yeah.
Oh, I'd have cried.
I couldn't say. It definitely was over 7. I never saw the depth of the fish. Once I thought I did, and I said, God, it's a deep fish, but so it could have been up on a double figure fish.
How was Liam? Been better.
He was, been better. I mean, as he said, well, I've had the experience of it. We got to see it.
Would that have been his PB? Like?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, it would have been his PB. Yeah, it would have been his PB. And as what I said to him, said it wasn't anything he did, wasn't anything I did. It was a design of that reel that allowed a coil of line to go inside off the spool into the frame of the reel.
Who designs reels with the gap?
Well, there's a drive to make things as light as possible.
But why do you have the gap?
Yeah, I know.
Oh, you'd love to name it.
Yeah. You would, wouldn't you?
Oh, there's a fatal testing flaw, I tell you, in that reel.
Yeah. Oh God.
Oh my.
So I feel now that I now have most memorable. Now I have finally, for the Island of the Fly, done my most memorable fish.
That's it's the almost most memorable fish on the fly. Like, my gosh.
Yeah.
Well, he did.
Yeah,
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Oh, you told it well.
Yeah.
That was sick. Absolute sick.
Yeah.
Condolences, Liam. I'm
Yeah.
feel for you. That is just. But you know what? You're a good guy, Tom. You put him on the fish.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. God, what a fish. What a fish. Anyway.
What a fish. Yes, that's it. Right, folks. Well, we'll leave you with that heart-wrenching story. And I'm going to be remembering that one tonight now. But look, let's get back to this week's guest, Garrett Ruigrok. And I first asked Garrett for a review of the Mayo so far this season.
I don't know if it's been a good year on the Mayo or not. It's been up and down. Springer numbers were down. Springer catches were down. As you know, I do quite a bit of guiding, so I've been around a lot of the fisheries. And Ridge Pool this year, oh God, it was a record, but for the worst reasons. The first fish caught off the Ridge Pool this year was the 7th of June, and it was a 2.5 pound Grilse. A lot of us, myself included, when I wasn't busy, I was fishing it hard to try to get the first one of the year again off the Ridge Pool. No joy. A lot of other good anglers, we were chasing it. Because even at that, it was fished hard all the way through May, because in May there's great value on the Ridge Pool. You get a full day, I think, for €45, and then the end of the month it goes to €65. Like, good value and previously a good chance of hitting a fish. But no, none of us did any good. One of our buddies, Paul Kelly, he hooked one, but got off before the net. But it was high water. Lads could spin it, lads could worm it. We were all fishing it on the fly. But the concerning thing was the lads weren't hitting anything on the spinner. So the springers definitely weren't holding in the ridge. We're consoling ourselves with the fact that the high water they're running through and they're getting safely upstream. Some of the fisheries upstream, we're getting some springers, but not enough to fill us with confidence. You know, some of the fisheries with deeper holes, there were fish lying up in them. East Mayo, we were getting some. Not as many as previous years. You get the odd week where there might be a good lot of it. And when I call a good lot, you might have 15 for the week. That's 9 miles of water and a fishery that's relatively heavily fished. Springers, no, didn't fill us with confidence. What came late, and volumes weren't great, unfortunately. I'm going to pause for breath for a moment, lads. That was a big, long sentence.
Go on, Garrett.
Take a drop of water there or something stronger at this stage, it seems. Is needed, Garrett.
No, but we have fished, lads. Like, we have been out. I've been out with clients. I've been out with friends when I haven't been booked. We have been fishing hard. The usual haunts, Pontoon Bridge. For any of those that don't know it, That's where it's a little narrowing between Lough Conn and Lough Cullen. A little bit of a bottleneck. So all salmon going through to Lough Conn have to pass through there. Would be favoured by prawners who perch themselves on rocks like cormorants. That didn't even produce. The odd day there might have been 2 or 3 fish got off it. Then there'd be nothing for a week. They say the early fish don't go into Lough Conn. They go up through Lough Cullen and then up through the Ballavari and then up to the Castlebar Manola River. I didn't hear any great reports of fishing up that way. You know, when you hear that even the liars aren't catching anything, when the liars aren't telling stories, it makes you think. So, no, it's unfortunately spring a lot better. Could have been a lot better. And we weren't expecting much. We didn't get much, unfortunately, lads. Some catches, but not like previous years.
So expectations, I presume, were fraught for the Grilse run. Garrett, hopeful, but fraught at the same time, were they?
We didn't know, and like you're hearing, everyone has their theories. And the big expectation was that this year we're 4 years after the lockdown of COVID. The trawlers weren't out, the longliners were locked up, so hopefully everything got a free pass on their migratory path, the smolts on their way up. The lower Moy, the water, we last got rain, I think, end of May. And the Moy just started to drop. And the ridge pool started coming into its own around 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th of June. Water levels started dropping, and they just dropped continuously until last Saturday night when the first flood came. The lower reaches, it was encouraging, guys. There for the last couple of weeks, there have been good numbers of fish in the pool. You know, you get your lads who kind of see 2 or 3 fish in a pool and they say, oh, the pool's heaving with fish. It's alive. You can walk across on their backs. It wasn't quite that. But me, I call it as I see it. I'm not a doom and gloom merchant, but I'm not going to say, oh, get down here. It's fishing great. I call it straight. But I was with a client at the top of the ridge pool there about 3-4 weeks ago. A little annex on it called the Weir Pool, where you stand at the top of the pool and you fish down into the flow. We were there at 5. High tide was about 7. So between 5 and half 6, I saw with my own eyes at least 200, 250 fish going up by me. You know, when you see running fish going up through the rapids, the spurts, the little flickers, the tails. One ran through my legs, another bumped off my boots. So I was watching my client, but I saw over 200 with my own eyes in that 1.5 hours. Was great to see, lads. It was truly great to see. Like, that wasn't on every tide, but that was before the big water came. Big water, and the catches were okay. Like, it's not like 10, 15 years ago where anyone would go down and catch a fish. The good anglers were catching fish. You have to work harder for them now. It's probably averaging out 5, 6, 7 fish per shift, with probably the same amount being lost and maybe the same amount, twice the amount being pricked or jagged and not being hooked. One thing we have noticed this year, talking with my buddies, we're losing a lot more fish than we're landing. And we don't know why. We haven't become any worse. We haven't changed our hooks. We're all losing fish. I don't know what it is. Maybe we're trying a little bit harder because they're scarcer. I don't know. But for the last month, the volume of fish we're hitting on the lower Moy was quite nice. Upper Moy, yeah, it was patchy. Couple of fisheries were doing quite well. They're primarily the fisheries, like the likes of that. The fish I was talking about, that was at the height, that was at the lowest point of the drought. Like, fish were still going through. Correspondingly, one particular fishery would be a fairly commercial fishery just south of Oxford. They were catching big numbers. Their guests and visitors were getting big numbers. Fish off every tide because their fisheries primarily deep holding pools. They'd be spinning it primarily, worming it primarily. That time of the year in low water, they'd be prawning it, and to great effect. They were getting party from a European country who had a very large number of fish for their week. So the fish were going. Didn't hear too many reports from lads catching them trolling on Lough Conn, but I was hearing of a few being caught up on the deal. And thankfully, most of the boys up in the deal were returning their fish, from what I was told. The deal is, have to be careful, but the deal can be known as a bit of bandit country up above. You know, it's off the beaten track. A lot of the fish up there would historically be walloped. But a number of the local boys fishing up there now are starting to see the light, and it's encouraging to see those guys returning fish. East Mayo, our Grilse run is sporadic. We thought we were going to have a bumper week this week. The flood came on Saturday night. Sunday was big water. A lot of fish moved, but we didn't get the volumes up into East Mayo we would have hoped for. I think there were 25 fish landed for all of Sunday at the height of the good water on East Mayo. For 9 miles of water, good numbers of anglers out. I think last week for East Mayo, I think there were 35 fish recorded, 10 released, 25 taken. And that's including the day of the big water of the flood. We would have liked to see more. I've heard reports from a couple of other fisheries downstream of Oxford where a lot of fish were caught on the big water. A lot of fish were killed too. Small amount of them put back. But in the floods, we get the ingress of flood hunters, really. You know, lads who might only come down here once or twice a year. And they're of the opinion they paid for their ticket. They're entitled to take their fish. Some of them take a lot more than what they're entitled to. But look, we're all around long enough. We know we can say tut, shouldn't happen, but it does happen. It's just a mentality among some individuals. So what do we take from that, lads? Yeah, Grilse run. Okay, good on the lower river. But once they went through, they were holding up in the deep holes. Then most lads are just fishing it like a spate river. When there's water on it, you'll get fish moving in between. But other than that, we're just holding up in the deep pools and not as responsive, not pulling as well.
Any idea, Garrett, how numbers compare to the last few years at all? Do you have any comparison?
Just from hearsay, I haven't done an analysis, but numbers are down somewhat. But it's been strange. Like as you said, guys, we've had no rain here on the Moy for 2 months. So fisheries that, like normally last year, you might have been getting your rain every 3 weeks. You get a small rise. So the fish would come on the take. Anecdotally, speaking with fishery managers, guides, and guys who are on the river a lot, it's down on last year.
And last year was bad, Garrett?
Last year is bad, yeah. I'm going by a couple of chaps I know who'd be damn good anglers. They fish downstream of Foxford. They're retired now, so they're spending a lot of time on the river. These lads, they know how to fish. They're not afraid to use different methods and adapt. And 2 of them, up until this weekend and the flood came, one guy had 4 and the other guy had 3. And trust me, for these boys, these could teach anyone how to fish the Moy. Like that's indicative. But then there's the odd fish. That's a normal standard fishery. That's Gannon's fishery. And I'm not going to mention the lads' names. I haven't asked them, but they're damn good anglers. But then when the floodwater came, they got a few fish on Sunday. It's fishing more spatey. You know, fish reliant on good water for the fish to pull. But really what I think it is, the volume of fish is down. Previously, there were more fish in the pool. If there were 50 fish in a pool, if we're looking at a percentage of maybe that 10% of fish in the pool are taking fish, the less fish you have in the pool, the less chance that you have a taking fish among them.
And where do you think it stands at the moment now, Garrett? Has the run, like we're looking here, it's coming onto the last week of July. Would you reckon that last weekend's flood would have seen the peak of the run? Are you hopeful? And we're always hopeful that there's more to come. But what do you genuinely think? Do you think it's going to peter off from now? What do you think?
I'm going to half and half on that, Tom. Traditionally on the Moy, the run peaked on Bonfire Night, St. John's Night, 23rd of June. In the last couple of years, it got progressively later. Mainly mid-July. I was at an event tonight. We ran a youth angling event on East Mayo tonight and had a good chat with Paddy McDonnell. And a couple of the other boys there were of the opinion that flood that came on Sunday was just not enough for the upper reaches. We're of the belief the amount of fish that were running downstream that didn't make it to East Mayo, we're of the belief that they're holed up in the deeper holes between a flash flood. Like it only came up on it for 7, 8 hours, and it fell off it as quick. There was nothing coming behind it to back it up. So we didn't see the volume in East Mayo that we thought were going to come. So rather than fresh fish coming in, which numbers might be low, we think there's a big body of fish holed up in the middle river yet to push up through to the upper reaches. But then conversely, I was guiding guys on the day of the big flood. I was guiding guys. They'd booked for the ridge pool, new people, they're only learning to fly fish, but they persevered. Even with the high water, they persevered. They wanted to learn to fly fish. And they got fish on the fly. I thought the pool was going to be totally cleared out. I thought everything was going to run. But then on Monday and Tuesday after the flood, I haven't been on it myself, but speaking to people who have been fishing, there is still a good body of fish in the ridge. They didn't push on. They didn't push up through it.
And is that because of it only been as you said, not a really big flood and didn't follow through? Is that what you put that down to?
It went to just below a meter at East Mayo, and the water was gone off it fairly quick. So yeah, we're of the belief it was a flood, but it wasn't a big one. Maybe we're of the belief maybe it wasn't enough to bring the big bodies of fish the whole way up. Being positively, hopefully optimistic that there's more to come. Not going to bet my house on it, but hoping now that there are fish. Look, I know there are some fisheries downstream of Oxford where there are big volumes of fish holed up in it, and there's no take on them at the moment. Even the fish we were catching on Sunday in the ridge. Oh, and shout out to the guys I was looking after, to Michael and Louis, new men to it, and it was great to see them returning their fish. You know, they said, guys, well done, your first salmon, your choice, your option. Would like to take them or release them? So, would you mind, can I take him out of the water for a couple of seconds to take a photo? Wanted to get him back. These are precious. Want to get him back. Says, absolutely, guys. So, and having the consciousness to know that salmon are red listed, and it's really encouraging to see the new guys doing that. It's a pity that some of the more established guys don't take a hint from them.
I think we just have to keep hammering home the message, Garrett, don't we? Like, wherever you can. Yeah. That's the only way to do it, like, really. Just actually, speaking of that as well, and, you know, we spoke to Johnny, who was about Norway, when he came back from Norway, and how he was affected by the closure of the rivers. And it occurred to me, I think I said it, Tom, at the time, was you'd be fearful almost that our salmon season now is getting as short as like a Norwegian salmon season, where the spring run is slowly fading away, the back end is gone, and you're just left with this kind of 2 months in the summer where you hope, if conditions and a bit enough rain, that you get a bit of fishing time. Am I being way too pessimistic here, or trying to look too far into the future?
Well, let's just say, look, we're all fishermen and we all fly fish for salmon, so we are at heart optimists. You know,
yeah.
Like, you know, that's how we're wired. But unfortunately, yeah, you're saying about Norway. I was in Norway at the time with buddies at the time that the embargo was called. I got the call into Johnny and to Yamel, hopefully getting them before they left Dublin. But they said, yeah, hiya, Garrett, we just landed in Oslo. How are things? I said, right. Sorry, boys. But I thought I was going to. But look, Norway opened my eyes. I was out there with a chap, Porrick, who goes to the Orkla every year, knows it very, very well. And he said, Garrett, we're not going to get many here, but we're fairly good anglers. I'd like to think we'll get one a day. And we're out here for quality. The smallest we'll get will be 15 pounds. You and I will be okay. Never got a touch for the week. Prime beef, prime pools. And the shock among the guides, getting on well with the guys out there, told them what I do myself, and speaking off the record with them, going for a beer one night, I said, lads, what's happening? He says, oh, we're in trouble. We're just keeping up a brave face. And then lo and behold, the embargo was called. Norway is in trouble. Yeah, we're probably going to go the same way. Optimistically, we're probably 5, 6, 7 years behind them. But unless things change and change rapidly, yeah, we're going to go the same way. Iceland is still the bastion of everything. Their numbers are dropping, but they probably have a 10-year advance on us before they get to critical levels. They're not having a bad year this year in Iceland, actually. Their runs are good. Their runs are holding up. They're on a par, if not better than last year. So it'll be interesting to see by the end of the year how they are. But as to that lovely gloomy scenario you posed there, Dara, unfortunately, unless something changes, our back end fishing last year here on the Moy, yeah, we were getting some fish, but there were crocodiles who'd been in. And they were just getting not quite ready to breed, but the aggressive trait was coming on them, and they were just getting snappy and irritable. Didn't see any silverfish. But there was sport to be got, like not fishing for unseasonable fish per se, but yeah, you could get the big old crocs to snap at you.
So you had a bit of sport, but you a fresh fish at the back end.
Nothing after August. Nothing really fresh after August last year, lads. Unfortunately, no. And you'll know that by lads fishing the lower beats on the Moy. Even at the later fish that come in, they tend to lie lower in the river. And just over progressive years, the lower beats, they're just not getting the fishing they were getting previous. Because, the river fills from the top downwards. By the time all the fish are allocated, there's not that many left to be allocated to the lower beats. Like, they're all running for the headwaters. No, so I look, I'm not overly for. We've still good sport at the minute. Will I go out fishing tomorrow on the Moy? Yes, I will. Do I think I'll get a fish? Yeah, I'd be hopeful enough. Yeah. I know my pools, there's still a little drop of water on it. Buddy of ours, Connor Arnold, he rang me yesterday. I was only going more, and he couldn't get a ticket for it. We said, right, try East Mayo. He went up and he fished it for 4 hours last night, hooked 4, landed 3. One of them was a fish about £9, all returned. So, like, it's not all doom and gloom. If you know what you're at, Connor's an excellent angler. He presented it right, got his tactics right, met 4 fish, landed 3. So it's not all doom and gloom, but then again, not everyone is as good as an angler as Connor Arnold or other pros. You just have to fish harder. There's not as many there. We just have to be better and just have to work harder, put in more hours. They're not giving themselves up as much because the volume of fish isn't there. But not going to give up on it totally yet, lads. There's still fish there to be caught.
Yeah, no, you're right. There's a couple of things, Garrett. I think one is, you have to work harder for it. So it's more of a challenge. So you can look at that glass half full, make you a better angler in the process. Because there's more of the challenge to kind of overcome. And I suppose the other thing is it's about just the opportunities, isn't it? It's just being able to try and strike while you can and make the most of the opportunities that maximize your chances. And if you can have that flexibility, that again will help your chances.
In a nutshell, that's why I packed my bags and left Dublin 6 years ago and moved here to the west. Spade rivers don't give you much of a window, so when they're up, they're up.
Dead right.
Actually, on the Spades, we'd a bit of sport in the Spade rivers here at the weekend. Dion Moore had some good fishing on Sunday. A buddy and myself went out to a little sneaky little river. Same sneaky one I told you about last year, but didn't quite tell you the name either. We went out in it and we met a couple of fish on it too. One thing we have to say, lads, of late, the fish that we're seeing, we're noticing a lack of net marks on them. Earlier in the year, we were seeing some fish coming in, a number of them being net marked. In the last couple of weeks, I don't know how, why, or what, but we're seeing very, very few net marked fish. And I know everyone's saying there should be no nets out there. There should be no nets out there, but there are nets. There are nets that they have to navigate. Couple of theories on it. One is that the big ships, they already have their mackerel quotas. They've moved on to further field and they're getting back. Others is saying for closer to home, there may be skips working off the coast of Ireland, but the northerly wind has been bringing in bigger swell and it's harder for them to work and harder for them to navigate. But all in all, we're not seeing too many net marked fish. So hopefully that's one little thing in a positive on it. And the grilse this year, guys, we're seeing really quality grilse. We're back to seeing 6.5 pound grilse. The first run of grilse on the Ridge Pool that were caught early June, there was very depressing, like 2.5 pound. Then about come the third week of June, we were getting fish, and it was quite simply, are these small springers or are they grilse? And that stamp of Grilse stayed through there. 6.5 pound Grilse absolutely would have made up 50% of what we were catching for the last few weeks. So that's nice to see those positives in it. Grilse.
That's really good to see, Garrett. That's, because, there's nothing worse than a small run of small grills.
These guys that made it there, these guys that made it there and made it back definitely found good feeding. Definitely found good feeding. So it was very, very comforting to see, guys.
And again, like that kind of goes against the grain of what you're hearing from science, in terms of the fish are struggling and therefore they're smaller size. So it's just as ever, there's more questions than answers, Garrett, isn't there?
Yeah.
Well, look, as we know, lads, whatever's happening is happening at sea.
Yeah.
Like the North Atlantic is the Wild West. We don't know. We can only hypothesize on it. But as I said, we can only talk about what we're seeing here on the ground or in the river at the minute. Seeing some positives. I'm not going to go around like bored falcha telling everyone it's fantastic. It's not. Salmon are in trouble, but I'm seeing reasonable amount of positives with the size of the fish, and still reasonable runs coming through. My synopsis on this year: Grilse fairly reasonable, Springers not great. That's autumn and yet to come. Hopeful. Fingers crossed for more fish yet to move.
The eternal optimist, the eternal salmon angler optimist. Come here, just to finish, Garrett, with a hope for the future. You guys had in East Mayo Anglers, you had your kids evening or kids open evening. You might just tell us about it, and I think it's just such a great initiative, and it's just, no matter what about the future of the fish, it's just brilliant to introduce the kids to fishing on the riverbank and learning all about it. Tell us a bit more.
Well, as I said in the podcast with you last year, East Mayo is a very, very proactive club, very, very strong committee on it. So really, it was broadcast in local papers, through our social media, a little bit on Midwest radio here. So it ended up, we all met at from 6 o'clock until 9 this evening. Children registered in advance, and we had 57 youngsters there this evening.
Fantastic.
So we're divided into a couple of teams. Paddy McDonald and myself were looking after fly casting. We set up a couple of targets on the grass, little fly rods, bit of wool, and ping the wool into the hoops. They loved it. A couple of the other guys were doing stations for bubble and fly. Others were doing stations for worming, and others another station for spinning. One of the guys brought his boat along, all fully equipped, set up a stand in front of it with spinners, rods, flies, everything. Brian Kennedy, who works at DPA, did a fantastic entomology stand there. He had everything, the kids catching bugs out of tanks, looking at them. We did everything we could, guys, and it paid off. A little burgers and barbecue in the corner. It's just raising awareness, raising spirits, bringing a little feel-good awareness and education for the kids. And guys, it was great. I'm shattered after, because when you're running full throttle for 3 hours.
Yeah.
But the adrenaline, it was worth every bit of it. A lot of work and prep went into it, but we had 57 kids there. So they'd come and they'd get about 5 or 10 minutes on the fly rods, then rotate on 5 or 10 minutes on the bubble and fly, 5 or 10 minutes on each station. So each child there was probably getting active tuition for about an hour off all the different fields. And then through generous sponsorship of local tackle shops and anglers who may have given up over the years, or people passed away and their wives would hand their gear, donate their club to the gear, to the club. There was a raffle at the end of it, and we had loads of rods, reels, lines, boxes of spinners. So nearly every child there got a prize going home on the night.
Fantastic.
But the thing about it was, guys, it gives in great hope for the future. The enthusiasm of the children it was great to see, and that's us giving our little bit back. It's a really, really good evening.
No, that's brilliant, Garrett, and fair play to us and the club for organising it and making it so strong as well, and only to be applauded. And I'm sure there's other clubs around the country doing other initiatives, but the more clubs that can do something like this, the more you encourage the youngsters. And it's not just about the fishing, like you said, it's the entomology, the river, the environment, the awareness. It's just giving them a start, and hopefully a few of them will stick with it. So Garrett,
yeah,
Listen, I don't know what to say actually at the end. I think it's been it was a brilliant summation you gave us in terms of the Moy. There's a lot of truth to that, and also a lot of hope as well for people to keep at it. I think maybe that's the kind of
one thing before we go, guys. And I know we're preaching to the converted here, but people have to stop killing so many salmon. I'm still hearing reports of grotesque amounts of numbers of fish being killed, and some of it way in excess of the daily legal allowance of people. There's still an awful greed factor there. Good to see people, as I was saying, the number of the guys up in the deal who are normally fish merchants, a lot of the diehard boys are turning around and seeing the light. New people coming into the sport are seeing the light, but some of the older diehards might just need a little bit of an attitude adjustment. May not be able to, probably never be convinced, but it'd be nice if a few more of them, the salmon that made it this far, got to make it in the sauna beds.
Yeah.
And especially in this time of crisis, as we've said it, Tom, on the show, whatever about normal times, when it's a time of crisis, just think twice and,
Think what happened in Norway, boys. Think Norway.
Yeah. There's a warning across our bows there. So, exactly. Garrett, tight lines for the next few weeks. I'm sure you'll be wrinkling out a few fish. No matter
Go
what.
on, it's the open invites there. Come west, and we'll put it to the test.
Exactly. Garrett, thanks a million for joining us.
Thank you, lads. Good night and good luck.
Our thanks to Garrett Ruigrok for joining us on the show. And don't forget to rate, review, and follow the Ireland on the Fly podcast on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts from.
Plus, you can keep up to date on IrelandOnTheFly.com as well as on Instagram. And myself and Tom will be back with another episode about the people and places of fly fishing in Ireland.